57talk.com. Gary Cubetta back from Scottsdale, Arizona, and one of our most requested and favorite guests of all times, Kevin Kelly. Kevin, great to have you back.
Gary, it's my pleasure to be back. We had such a good conversation the first time, and I feel like we just scratched the surface, and we got a lot of ground to cover, a lot of cool stuff to talk about.
Kevin, I had you on, and, we get emails. Some of the shows the fans really like, and some of the fans, they're maybe a little lukewarm on, and they really liked the show we did. And I'm sure you got some good feedback. I got the good feedback, so that always makes you feel good, right?
Oh, it sure does. And it's great to hear from the fans. And I heard a lot of good things about you. And I've grown to, and I was familiar with 57talk.com through our mutual good friend Bob Evans. And once I got hooked, man, I listen to everything now. It's been great.
Whoa, wait a minute here. You listen to some of our other interviews?
I listen to all of them.
That's a big compliment coming from you.
You're a good interviewer. You do a great job. You cut through all the BS.
Really?
Other interviews, I'm doing a lot of media because we're gearing up for this big event in Charlotte on April 3rd, the Big Bang,
okay.
Ring of Honor's internet pay-per-view. But I've done a lot of interviews, and I keep going back to the idea of the host needs to be prepared, the host needs to ask questions, and the host needs to know how to take his guest in a certain direction. And you do a great job with that.
Well, I appreciate you saying it. Why? How's the preparation of some of the others?
Oh, tepid at best.
Tepid.
And I'm being kind.
Okay, fair enough. I thank you for those kind words, and they are appreciated. Now let's talk about April 3rd. You're back with Ring of Honor. Give me the details of this relationship. What's going on here?
Well, through our mutual good friend Jim Cornette, he reached out to me several months ago when he was named the executive producer of Ring of Honor Television, and wanted to. He knew that in order to help the company grow, he needed to have some key people in some key spots. And Ring of Honor has been a fortunate company in that they have gotten by with a small number of people wearing a whole lot of hats. And Jim said, Kevin, you're one of those guys who can do a lot of different things, and I want to bring you in. And what we have, one of the first things that I'm doing is I'm the lead play-by-play announcer for the internet pay-per-views that Ring of Honor is doing. We're doing 4 each year, and it's going to be, a great. We've already done one. We did one back in December, and it did very well. Very happy with it. Now I'm calling the play-by-play starting April 3rd in Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Big Bang, which is wrestling worlds colliding, and as wrestling goes headlong here in the 21st century with the youngest, most athletic talent roster in the industry today. And at the Big Bang, we're bringing together not only the stars of Ring of Honor, but also some stars of Lucha Libre to give the fans a different flavor and a couple different styles of wrestling.
Now, I'm not surprised at all that they'd bring you in because you're would be a big asset. Are they using you for different things? Or at this point, are you just doing the pay-per-views?
Right now, I'm doing a couple different things. I'm helping. We just completed a very successful tryout camp where we wanted to see what was available to the company and to see what wrestlers were out there and to see who might fit with Ring of Honor. And we got a ton of responses, and we had about 40 athletes come in from different parts of the country, all over the U.S., and 2 from Canada as well. So I was helped coordinate that, which goes back to my experience in the WWE and the talent development system. And it was a great showcase for some of these guys. Bob Evans did an outstanding job from the New England area. There were, like I mentioned, 2 kids from Canada that did great. There was talent from Texas, from Colorado, all over. And everybody came out, worked hard, and it was a good learning experience for them, and it was eye-opening, too, from a Ring of Honor perspective to see who is available to the company and where they are.
Now, of course, we've got 3 major companies right now, WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA. TNA has decided to go the geriatric route. Vince does what Vince does, and the talent with Ring of Honor, of course, younger. What kind of future do you think the company really has? What's like your hopes and visions of where it could go?
Well, I think in conversations that we've had, the business model of Ring of Honor is changing, because the marketplace has changed. When Ring of Honor was created, it was built around the idea of bringing together the best available talent, the best independent talent, young, unsigned, future stars, and putting them in dream match scenarios, matchups that fans on the Internet wanted to see, and then put them forth not only after you see them at the live event, but then sell it to the fans on DVD. And it became a big collector's item to have these DVDs. Well, over time, the dream matchup scenario became fewer and fewer because, again, fans had seen everybody that there was. And as some of these guys begin to get signed up from, get scarfed up through the WWE developmental system or through TNA, again, there's some attrition. And it just doesn't sell as well. Plus, I guess there's a lot of file copying and file sharing nowadays, so DVDs don't sell as well. All right, then Ring of Honor needs to move in a different direction. One of the reasons why they brought in Cornette is to take them into more of a traditional live event television business model. Put forth the best wrestling product you can on your TV show and entice fans to go out and buy tickets to the live event. And instead of treating it like a dream match scenario, treat it more in terms of personal issue, conflict, all over wanting to prove who is the best, who is the better man, who will seek revenge. Classic battles of good versus evil, and really wanting to become the champion to ascend to the throne at the top of the company.
Okay, so April 3rd, we've got the pay-per-view Big Bang, right?
That's right.
And
you can order it right now, gofightlive.tv.
Wait.
Or you can get information through ROHWrestling.com.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm on the web here. So what do I click in to make this work?
If you type in gofightlive.tv, you can look for the April events, and you can look for the ROH's The Big Bang.
Oh, wait a minute. They've got like a lot of different. Says upcoming events, March 12th, 13th. Wait a minute.
They do a lot. Go Fight Live hosts a lot of MMA events. And, a lot of different things for viewers to check out.
So what is this? This is the coming thing, direct pay-per-views right over the Internet?
I think it is, Gary. I think that, again, the business model with Ring of Honor is changing, and I think that, again, fans want that immediate, be able to click on and order it. I think it's a little less expensive because Go Fight Live is, willing to work with partners like Ring of Honor. So the price point is a little bit more, it's only $14.95 for the Big Bang as opposed to $44.95 or $50.95, however much WrestleMania is this year. I know it's expensive. So, again, it's a little bit easier, I think, for the fans to reach in their wallet and, $14.95. There's ways to hook up your internet connection into your HD TV or into your big screen TV. So you'll be able to watch it just like you would be watching a regular pay-per-view event. It just comes over your internet connection as opposed to the cable.
Yeah, well, they're starting to sell a lot of these players like Roku now, and you can like watch this stuff like it doesn't have the resolution of a full HD TV signal, but it's pretty good enough, I guess. Imagine if they had this kind of technology back in the territory days, and you could have seen like live shows from the arena from all the different areas. So when you do this production, is it the same production quality of a normal pay-per-view or a little less?
No, I asked that, and I said, is it how many frames per second is it? And, of course, 30 frames per second is regular television, and that's what it is through this. It's 30 frames per second.
Is same amount of cameras and that kind of stuff? Is it just one camera shot?
No. It's a full television production.
Wow.
And we're not utilizing the HD Net production truck for this. But we're going to be utilizing Go Fight Live's production facilities.
Now, I won't ask you why you're not hosting the regular Ring of Honor shows on HDNet, but I will just comment that, if it was me, you'd be doing all of them. But I guess I don't want to get you in any trouble or anything. But anyway.
You don't have to get me in trouble. It's it's the decision with what they're doing right now. And if they decide that, hey, Kevin can do a better job than what we have right now, I have to prove myself. You understand and you know and I know and others know. But I think that there is a belief that, somebody like me has to go out and prove himself, and I don't care. That's fine because I want to go out and prove myself every day no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm working in wrestling or whether I'm working in a 9-to-5 job. I want to prove that I'm the best at what I do. So I look forward to the challenge, and that's kind of one of the reasons why, this Big Bang event is so important to me, because it's almost like, hey, this is how they said, evolutionists say this is how the universe was created, and this is how Kevin Kelly can get reborn and again, become front page news again.
Well, it'd be kind of like having LeBaron James and having him on the Pines instead out in the game. But that whose decision is this up to? Because listen, I tape Ring of Honor each week. I got it on the cable DVR. And I see what's going on, and some of it's good, and I don't like some of it. And whose decision is it as far as that goes? I'm just curious. Is that Jim's?
No, it's HDNet's.
Is Mark Cuban involved at all financially with it?
He's the owner of the network.
But does he like wrestling?
Yes, he does.
He does like wrestling.
He loves it.
He does. I like HDNet. It's on. I don't have the cable. I got the DirecTV. It's not on cable. Is HDNet on cable or just satellite TV?
No, it's on many cable systems across the country. It's not on 100% of them, but I have it here at my house, and I have Blue Ridge cable here in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's easily one of my favorite cable channels. Okay, so
great.
April 3rd, we've got the pay-per-view. I'm going to have to bookmark this site. I didn't even know about this. I'm not going to make believe I did, so I'm going to bookmark this, and we're going to. Now, what's the cost for the event?
$14.95.
And when I watch Ring of Honor, I see Austin Aries and all the guys. Give me an idea what's the lineup looking like.
The main event is a triple threat match for the ROH World Championship. Tyler Black is the new champion defending against the former champ Austin Aries and Roderick Strong. Both Strong and Aries clamored Cornette for the first title opportunity against Black, and Cornette couldn't rationalize one over the other, so he's going to put him in a triple threat match, and this is an elimination match, so the champion cannot lose his title without being defeated. And we'll see what happens. Plus, the Briscoes, Mark and Jay Briscoe, defend the tag team titles against the Kings of Wrestling. That's going to be a terrific tag team bout. Kenny King is in a pick six match. He's currently in the. That's how they determine top contenders for the ROH World Championship. Davey Richards is going to take on Kenny King for King's spot in the pick six. Plus, we've got two lucha matches, which is an opportunity to see such stars as Blue Demon Jr., Cassandro, Magno, Solar. Some of the top names in Lucha Libre will be competing there in Charlotte. And more matches will be announced in the weeks to come.
Now, of course, Kevin, you're famous for being one of the insiders with Vince McMahon. And, of course, now Vince is preparing for WrestleMania with Bret Hart. Have you been watching?
I sure have. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the build to this year's WrestleMania.
Okay, give me your opinion as an insider. What do you think how's Vince setting this up?
With him and Bret?
Yeah, what's his thinking, and where do you think it'll go, and what type of match do you see coming?
Well, I think we're going to have after they made the stipulation that it's basically no disqualification or something like that, I think there's going to be a lot of pots and pans involved. I think it's going to get, we'll see some outside stuff. It certainly is not going to hearken us back to the days of Jack Briscoe and Dory Funk Jr., but no Vince McMahon match ever would. And I think Bret, at the stage of his life, with everything that he's been through physically over the last few years, I think this will be the best way for him to work around any limitations that he might have and give the people the satisfactory outcome that they want to have. They want to see Vince McMahon get waylaid. And I have a feeling that once Bret Hart gets his hands on him at WrestleMania, it won't take him long for him to dispatch of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Did Vince ever tell you why he was, after all the years that he finally decided to get into the ring?
I think the way it was put to him at first, because how Vince became, the evolution of the Mr. McMahon character began, of course, with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and needing to find that perfect antagonist to Steve and the anti-authority figure that he was. Vince wanted, of course, the corporate champion. He wanted the corporate role model of champion. Austin, after winning the title, was certainly far from that, and so that didn't sit too well with Vince. But the way it began was they gave Vince Austin was really annoyed with the fact that Vince wanted to swagger around with the belt and talking about the corporate champion. And what Steve said was, Vince, obviously you're talking about yourself here. You envision yourself as the WWE champion. So let's give you a chance right here in Philadelphia tonight. Let's do it one-on-one, you and me. We do it the easy way or the hard way. Easy way is you face me later on the ring. Hard way is I come back there and whip your ass right now. And so that was the first time that Vince ever got into the ring for a match. I don't think a punch was thrown. One hand wound up tied behind Austin's back, I think, and out came Dude Love and the rest was history. From there, the evolution, it was a slow transformation. I think it was something always that Vince always wanted to do, but I know that it was something that his father dissuaded him from doing greatly.
Did Vince tell you that he really liked being in the ring as a wrestler?
No, he never really told anybody. He would tell people that he didn't like it, but you could see it. You know, Gary, when somebody is really, really liking something, they don't have to say it. They know it. It's written all over their face. You know, every time Vince would put on that, that sweatsuit or whatever, he loved it. He loves to perform. He loves to be out in front of the fans. And, you know, he's a believer in hard work, and the testament of it gives him a reason to really crank up his workouts. I saw him in the gym all the way up through his Royal Rumble match, where he was going to be going in as the number one man in the Royal Rumble, and Austin was number two. And nobody gave Vince a shred of, a second of thought, and he wound up being the one who won the whole thing. But that just gives Vince a reason to get in the gym and crank up his workouts even harder. He's a true fanatic when it comes to working out.
Did he do any mat training with maybe a Jerry Briscoe or anybody, Pat Patterson? Who taught him how to work?
Actually, Dr. Tom Pritchard did quite a bit of training with Vince. And Vince was a very good student, worked very hard to try to learn and improve on the basics.
Would he train at Titan Towers?
He trained at the TV studio where they had a ring set up. And, the same ring that everybody would come in, if a guy was coming off of injury, he would come down and train for a few days. If there was somebody that they wanted to bring in for a tryout, he would train in that ring. It was in the warehouse in the television studio.
So he really got into it. He really liked to train, and he's still, here he goes again, WrestleMania. Looking at him, and he obviously doesn't look like a normal, how old is he, 63, 64?
63 now, yes.
That's not the way a normal 63-year-old tends to look. How many more years do you think he can get in the ring?
Well, I mean, he's it's kind of like a Jack LaLanne type of thing with Vince. I think that Vince can continue to do whatever he wants to do physically as long as his health, and when you say health, you mean like some kind of catastrophic illness. But as far as being in shape enough to be able to get into the ring and, but it's not going to be a contest of arm bars and wrist locks. It's going to be chase and run and all this and that, but you have to be in a certain amount of condition to be able to do that. I don't see any time where Vince wouldn't be able to do that. He's just a workout fanatic, and just the same as Jack LaLanne's able to do the things that he does well into his 80s, I could see Vince in that exact same position. I don't know if I see Vince still wrestling in his 80s, but who knows?
80, that's 63, 25.
Let's give him 17 more years. Let's say in WrestleMania 46 or whatever it'll be.
Yeah, no, it'll be more than that. Yeah, something like that. Wow.
The 50th anniversary of WrestleMania will be Vince's final match. How about that?
So knowing Vince the way you know him, do you think that it bothers him that he's getting older, or
That's a good question.
A lot of people don't like getting older, and some like it because they've been frustrated throughout their lives, so they figure, okay, it's just about over. But Vince has had a lot of success. Do you think he's like, man, I wish I was younger so I could live this thing all over again?
I think so. I know that he likes to control everything, and I think I said this to you the last time we spoke, and if not, he hates to sneeze because he can't control it. He has to be in control of everything in his life at all times. So the aging process, I bet, bothers him greatly, only because it's something that he can't control. But he certainly lives every day to its fullest. He sleeps about 3-4 hours a night, and he outworks his staff, and his staff is all much younger than him.
What do you think would have happened to Vince? Let's say during the Wrestling Wars, maybe Ted Turner had had it together a little bit more, maybe taken on a Bill Watts as a partner instead of the Crockett deal. And let's say Vince hadn't won out in the Wrestling Wars, and his luck in life wasn't so good. Did you ever look at Vince and wonder what he would be like if he hadn't have been so successful?
These are very good questions. No, because I never looked at him in any way other than the most successful that he had been. But if he didn't, I think he knew enough about. His television experience. You have to understand. I mean, they were cranking out hours and hours of TV each and every week back in the in the territory days, in the 60s and 70s and early 80s. And again, I think that I could see him as a network executive. And let's remember, too, that Vince sees himself as much more than just a wrestling promoter. He sees himself as the head of an MGM Studios or NBC Network or a theme park, the modern-day Walt Disney, if you will. That I think Vince sees himself as someone who transcends much more than wrestling, which is why he shunned that title. I don't want us to be wrestling. We're sports entertainment. We're the movies. We're all this and that. So Vince sees him on a different plane. If he wasn't successful in the wrestling business, he would have done something else in the entertainment business because he really sees himself as an entertainer, not just as a wrestling promoter.
How frustrated was Vince with the failure of the XFL?
I think he was very frustrated. I think he was very embarrassed because he put his reputation and a lot of cachet of Vince McMahon went into making that a success, and it was a flop. I think he moves on. When you're that rich, you can afford big failures. He failed before on a big stage with the WBF, and there was boxing. There was all kinds of things that he tried and failed.
Walking around Titan Towers during that time. Now, the XFL kind of imploded rather quickly that summer, I believe, of 2000. Was he especially grumpy, or did you notice any difference? Did he say anything to you? Because that was a real. I mean, not only was the XFL a failure business-wise, it was an artistic failure. The thing was not. Any football fan would recognize that was just very, very poor football.
Right, and that was ultimately its demise because the football wasn't any good. I knew right off the bat, and I hate, again, you always hate people that do that. I was the one who said, I think this is a bad idea. Nobody listened to me. Okay, fine. They were going ahead and they were going to do this. Vince kept working, and Vince really doesn't show his poker face a lot when it comes to when things are not working and not going well. There were always little frustrations and little blow-ups along the way, but I remember the faces that I remember during the XFL time were the young men and women at the TV studio who were having to work double hours. They were already putting in like 40 or 50 hours a week at least on their WWE work, then having to combine that and do the exact same thing for XFL. And by the end of the season, they were like at the point of breaking, burnout. Because it was not, we're going to hire all these new people to do XFL work. Oh, no, now this is just lumped into your stuff. And in addition to you getting all your regular wrestling programming done, you have to get all this football programming done. And it was a nightmare. You
know what I thought was strange, Kevin, was that Vince is such a believer in the star system. He always, tightened the focus around the stars of WrestleMania, and yet he has the XFL without one single name player. Did anybody ever say to him, hey, Vince, if this thing's going to go, you got to have some high-priced talent out there? Did you find that odd that he didn't think in that direction?
I think that his not really being in on the inner workings, the inside meetings with the executive hierarchy of the XFL, if it was anything like the hierarchy in the wrestling, it's just a lot of yes men who find ways very quickly what's going to make Vince laugh or chuckle, or how can I get my agenda through Vince today? And so no, if Vince didn't want to hear it's going to take high-priced talent, Vince doesn't want to hear that it's going to take high-priced talent to make this a success. Vince wants to hear what Vince wants to hear, which is through hard work and determination, and we're going to do it our way, and it's going to work, and it's going to be successful.
So what happens if someone goes into a meeting with Vince and really disagrees with him? Hey, Vince, you're wrong. What happens?
You better have your reasons why, because he'll poke holes. You could pitch the greatest idea ever. Gary, you could sit there and go, I've got the greatest idea, innovation that's going to make his product, it's going to take his net worth threefold. He'll be competing with Bill Gates. You can go to Titan Tower, sit down with Vince. Vince, I have this idea. Okay, great. Explain it to him. And he will come up with every possible objection. He'll try to poke holes in it every way. So it better be completely fundamentally sound.
Yeah, that's kind of what my boss here does. Every time I come up with a new brilliant idea, the whole poking starts. He's like,
yeah.
Well, what about this? What about that? That won't work. And I'm like, oh man, I should have kept my mouth shut. So then I ask you this, Kevin: do people not try and give a contradictory point of view to Vince because it's not worth going through the pain of getting the holes poked in the idea?
Absolutely, because that's human nature. Whether it's with Vince McMahon or with anybody. If a very special person wants to go in and potentially get their head bitten off, and when you get your head bitten off, Vince doesn't. He's such an interesting person, and I know I said this before. He's a real interesting psychological study. He doesn't take it personally. He likes the combative nature in people. He likes to have a good verbal sparring match with someone and debate a point of view. He likes that. And when people stand up to him in a respectful fashion, he's going to come back at you with both guns blazing. And if you stand up to him, man, you will earn points big time with him. He likes the yes men, but at the same time he likes to be challenged. That's why Paul Heyman and him always got along so well. It was a love-hate relationship. They loved to fight with one another, and they hated each other for their different points of view, but then they'd go back to loving each other.
Could Pat Patterson disagree with him?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Did you ever
Pat was one of the ones who, the true inner circle, Pat was one of the ones who at no point in time would hesitate going, Vince, that idea is terrible, and here's why.
And Vince would, well, obviously Pat's the guy is Pat the guy he respects the most?
I think so. I think that's fair. Triple H is right up there as well, but I think Pat, when you look at history, longevity, by far, Pat has been Vince's most important confidant over the last 30 years.
Why do you think that Pat was able to work with Vince, but guys like Bill Watts and others, they didn't really seem to have a place with Vince? Because I talk to the retired legends all the time, and you can kind of tell that they wish that they had positions with Vince. What made Pat so different? I
think Pat, because of who he is and the lifestyle that he's lived, I think he cares, and also I think because of his his upbringing and the way he grew up, I just think he doesn't really care as much. He doesn't get, going back to my last point, I think people put up walls and restrictions around them and are afraid of criticism. I think with everything that Pat, was out, certainly was out of the closet years before anybody else was, I think that Pat just doesn't care if you agree or disagree with him. He's going to make his point of view. He's going to treat you with respect. He's a very loving person. And all you have to do is show him the same level of respect. And I just really think that that's the reason why. I think because there's a strong level of self-confidence within Pat. That's the reason why he's been able to stand up and survive as long as he had. Plus, you know what? Maybe he's just a little bit smarter than everybody else because his ideas are always pretty much right on.
Well, the thing is, Pat was never, maybe he was a booker at times, but he never really ran his own promotion. He was one of the guys. And then he went with Vince, of course, and then had all types of responsibilities that were even greater than running a promotion. Did Pat do really well financially with Vince?
Oh, of course. Of course.
Like really, I guess he's like really well off, right? Probably.
I mean, he's able to live a comfortable lifestyle. I mean, he doesn't live an extravagant lifestyle. He lives in Florida. He plays a lot of golf. He sings a lot of karaoke. He's one of the happy-go-luckiest guys I've ever known in my whole life. Yeah. His needs are few, and he does not live extravagantly. But let's remember, Pat, spent a lot of years working for Roy Shire out in that territory, and he spent a lot of years with Ray Stevens, and he spent a lot of years around a lot of smart people. And the smart man can really absorb a lot of knowledge through hanging around a lot of smart people. That's what I've always tried to do.
Yeah, and Pat, some of the younger fans might not realize this, Pat was one of the greatest workers in the history of professional wrestling, because I remember during his last days as a wrestler in the early 80s, he could still outwork anyone. And he was someone who should have probably, at that point, been well over the hill, but he wasn't.
Absolutely. When Bret Hart inducted Pat Patterson into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I think it was 1996, he made the speech that if you have never seen a Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens tag team match, then you have never seen tag team wrestling. That in his mind, in his opinion, Bret Hart said that the team of Patterson and Stevens was the best tag team ever. And, certainly Pat Patterson, his status has grown more so because I think of his work, in the WWF, WWE for all these years and coming up with the innovation of the Royal Rumble. But none of us can ever forget his contributions inside the ring and the work that he did. He was phenomenal.
Kevin, speaking of Bret, were you there the night that the accident with Owen happened?
Yes, I was.
Did you see that happen?
I saw it from the same perspective that everybody else did. I saw it on the monitor.
Because it
see
wasn't
on the monitor. I would. Here's the way it worked out. Owen and I had pre-taped an interview earlier in the day as the Blue Blazer. So JR did the throw to the pre-taped interview. Earlier today, Kevin Kelly stood by with, the Blue Blazer. And I'm trying to get him to admit that he's Owen Hart, whatever. It was campy. It was fun. And then so it was obvious that was earlier today. Then we come out of that interview, and it was to go to the shot of Owen coming down the zip line or being lowered down on the line to the ring. And so I went back in the TV locker room where they had the monitors set up, and just to watch to watch the interview back and to see how the transition happened to the live shot. And as soon as they went, they left my interview and went to an odd crowd shot. I knew something was wrong.
Because I was watching on pay-per-view, and I didn't see the falling. I saw it was like a crowd shot, right?
Yeah, because you did not see. What had happened was that because whatever the timing of the lowering of Owen was supposed to take, so he started to go when the interview was still playing.
Oh, because I remember
the cameras were rolling, but I don't know if they got a shot of it. But all we know is that he was in the ring. He had hit the ring, and so as soon as I saw the odd crowd shot, I knew something was wrong. And I went running down the hall, and, it's probably like a 15 or 20-foot run, and there were, by the gorilla position where the entrance was, there was just a lot of crying and a lot of screaming and a lot of pandemonium and yelling. And the doctors ran out, and we were trying to figure out what to do, and nobody really knew what to do.
Did you spot Vince, like his initial reaction?
What I remember Vince standing over Bruce Pritchard, who was on headset seated. And Bruce all voices were raised. And Bruce was emphatically trying to figure out what was going on. And people were trying to look out the curtain. And so Vince, I think, got on headset as well and was trying to listen to the communication from the director, from the cameraman who had eyes on him, who could see what was going on.
Did you see Vince's face?
Oh, Vince's face and everybody's face was horrified. It was shock. It was sickness. It was, every raw emotion that there could be came out in people.
Yeah, I can feel it like right now just asking you these questions. I mean, it's just – and, Vince has taken a lot of criticism that he should have, the Meltzers and all these guys, they should have canceled the show and this and that. But, I always thought if you're running a show like this behind the scenes, these decisions aren't as easy as someone, Monday morning quarterbacking it. Did you feel that way, or did you feel the thing should have just been canceled? No,
I completely agree that the show should have gone on, did go on, because here's what we were told. They got to Owen, they got him out of the ring, and they loaded him up on the stretcher, and they brought him to the back. The show continues because we don't know what else to do, so we're going to cancel or skip over whatever the Owen Hart Godfather match, and we're going to a mixed tag with Val and Nicole Bass against Jeff and Deborah. So I'm interviewing Jeff Jarrett and Deborah, Owen's closest friends, or two of Owen's closest friends, I should say. And they're crying, sobbing. I am too. And out of the corner of my eye, as I'm doing this interview, there's an EMT on top of Owen on the gurney while they're wheeling it towards the ambulance, and he's performing CPR. So somehow we stagger through this interview. They get out in the ring, and they have their match. I don't even know what happened. None of us are told whether or not Owen Hart is alive or dead. By the time we get word that, yes, Owen Hart is died, and it's a matter of finality, then at that point the show was 3/4 of the way done. Let's just finish it because we didn't want to, we didn't know what else to do. Let's just finish the show. We've already gone along this far, and let's just finish it and be done,
I don't think people realize what, and of course Owen's, he's dead, but, you're kind of in business with cable companies. There's a lot. It's not just Vince's decision. It's kind of like some of this revenue is going for the cable company, I
don't think Vince thought about that for 2 seconds.
You don't?
No, I don't think any of that crossed his mind because we didn't have time to consider any of that. We did not have time to consider whether or not, there was still hope that he was alive.
Yeah.
And even if and then we found out afterward that one of the doctors that went out and treated him right away, they knew he was dead, and that was it. and it was kind of hopeless. But I don't think that was information that was communicated back to us.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, in some ways, it's not just Vince's decision. He's got partners, cable. I guess he could cancel it if he wanted to. I think that I thought at the time that if I was in that position, of course, it's easy to say afterwards, I would just run the show through and get it over with, and then take care of whatever has to be taken care of. I mean, and
right.
You're kind of saying the same thing, right?
I think so. There was not, I think because it was early in '96. They did a pay-per-view, and because of electrical storms or bad weather, there was a major power outage. In a situation like that, they had to cancel. They didn't really have a choice.
Is that the one they redid on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, or something like that.
And that was a big mess. I remember that was it was from San Antonio or something. It was just a big mess.
There was whatever, bad weather, and they couldn't finish the show, so they finished it, a couple nights later. Whatever. There's situations like that, yeah, absolutely, where the show has to stop, and we understand that. There wasn't, and I can see where those who believe that the show should have stopped right then and there, Gary, I understand their point of view, and they're not wrong. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't segment. Nobody's going to criticize Vince if he stops the show, but again, his motivations to continue the show weren't out of some bad place either. It was out of hope. It was out of, we don't know what to do. How do we face this? Well, we're showmen. This is what we do. The show goes on.
Do you think Vince regretted lowering people from the top of arenas? I never got what the benefit was to it even before the terrible thing happened to Owen. I mean, what's the point? That just seemed, do you think did anyone ever go to Vince and say, hey, Vince, this is stupid to begin with?
No one ever did that. I remember when, and it was before my time with the company, but it was something that we had talked about after the fact, that when they wanted to lower Shawn Michaels on the zip line, for WrestleMania 12, that Vince did it himself in rehearsal during the day, just so nobody could say, hey, Vince is sending his guys out there to do something dangerous that he shouldn't be doing. Hell, he was willing to do it himself. I think that part of it is, hey, it's larger than life. We're all things to all people, and these guys are consummate showmen and athletes, and lowering somebody on the line is just an extension of that. I agree with you. I don't see the point to it. And I mean, in the past few years, we've seen a great reduction in the number of dangerous stunts that the wrestlers are being asked to do.
Okay, Kevin, it's been a pleasure. That was show number 2. You've got April. Give one more plug for April 3rd, because this is something very important. We got to get you back in the mainstream with this stuff. Go ahead.
Well, ROH presents The Big Bang on Saturday, April the 3rd. It's going to be live from the Grady Cole Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, and tickets are available right now through ROHWrestling.com. You can also tune into the event live on internet pay-per-view through GoFightLive.tv. You can also get all the information about whether you want to attend live or watch it on internet pay-per-view. Get all the information for ROHWrestling.com. But the Big Bang is going to be a tremendous night. The main event is a triple threat match for the ROH World Championship with Tyler Black defending against Roderick Strong and Austin Aries. The Briscoes defend the ROH Tag Team titles. There's going to be lucha matches. There's going to be all kinds of excitement and pandemonium. Plus, I got special guests joining me on the internet pay-per-view broadcast, a special halftime show. The original Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey, Bobby Eaton, and Jim Cornette will be there, along with Dirty Dutch Mantel, and the man who's refereed more NWA World Championship matches than anybody else, Tommy Young. I'm going to have all those guests live in a special halftime show midway through the Big Bang. That's Saturday, April 3rd, $14.95, GoFightLive.tv. And it's going to be a real special night.
That sounds good. Very good indeed. Okay, Kevin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You got it, Gary. Thank you. Look forward to joining you once again.
We're going to do part 3 sooner than later.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.